that people see like the other side and what happens and the damage that can be done from MLMs. Once you hit a certain level, they start to pull the curtain back a little bit and you see. So if I want to get there, I have to like sell my soul. And they said they were following the Beachbody plans. They were not. They were doing keto. I was in their groups. It's the same. It is the exact same, no matter where you go. All an employer has to do, and they do this now, is search you. And all of those things are going to come up. Someone who's a 15-star diamond has a different business and a different structure than someone who never rank advanced at all. Their resumes and their interviews would look very different because they used and gained different skills. To me, it shows a high level of accountability. It shows growth. It shows integrity, morals, like all of those things. That to me as a recruiter is more important than you being able to type a certain number of words per minute. Because you can use ChatGPT, you can use AI to create an interview guide for you. They ask you about your MLM time, or they ask you about those things. Like you're probably making $2 to $3 an hour. And for what? What relationship was I teaching my kids with food? When your kids don't care about that, but they do care that when they look up at their soccer game and you're not paying attention, they care about that. I was never fully present. I was always listening to my phone.
Well, I'm super excited about today's guest. So I stumbled upon her channel when YouTube recommended the famous car video. I don't know if it's famous or not, but it's famous for me because that's how I discover you. It was heartbreaking. I was there with you, like, oh my God. So I shared on my stories, and from that day forward, I've been a fan of your anti-MLM content. I love your approach. You're always like coming with the facts and with the numbers. All the work that you put to your content is very much appreciated. She's a human resources professional, and I have the honor to call her my friend. And thank you so much for being here, Aimee.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yay. I am so excited. I guess kind of the same thing. We both are like fangirling because same thing, like your content, the depth of it, and also to be able to support the bilingual communities. And like, it's been awesome. So yeah, that car video definitely got a lot of attention that I wasn't necessarily planning on. I just was like, I'm having a breakdown. I just knew that I needed to record it. And then I got home and I was like, sweetheart, will you look at this? And I gave it to my husband and he like teared up and he's like, I can't talk right now. And he had to leave. And I was like, was it that bad? And my oldest daughter was like, Mom, you've got to post this. This is important that people see like the other side and what happens and the damage that can be done from MLMs. And not just financially, but like it impacted me in every aspect. And I still, I'm kind of recovering physically as well. So yes, there's a lot to it.
Yeah, I think what happened to your daughter was kind of the same that happened to me. I was like, I need to share this. Like, everybody needs to see this. You can tell us a little bit about you, about yourself, your background, how you ended in the anti-MLM movement.
I mean, first and foremost, I'm a wife and mom. I have 5 kids. They range from 21, which is, I'm like, oh my gosh, from 21 down to 11. So I'm right in the thick of it with teenagers, which I don't highly recommend teenagers. It's a whole new ballgame. I did human resources for about 15 years. I kind of fell into it right out of high school. And I started doing recruiting. And then I switched over into more of a benefits role and then a generalist role doing employee relations and then moved into management. And so when I left to start staying home when I had my 4th. So I've been home for about 13 years now. I have my SPHR, so it's the Senior Professional in Human Resources. I've maintained that licensure while I've been home. Going from being a working mom to being a stay-at-home mom was a huge transition for me. And I really lost myself. I went from a pretty high-profile, really busy career to being at home with these kids that at the end of the day, nobody is like, oh my gosh, you did such a good job today. You changed so many diapers. And I missed that, like, the sense of accomplishment, because with parenting, you're playing a long game. And I'm starting to see that now with like my 21-year-old. After my 5th baby, we had moved to Washington. We didn't have any family there. But when we moved to Washington, I was pregnant with number 5. I had the baby. We had a great friend group, but I didn't have any family. I didn't have a sense of purpose. It was incredibly expensive in the Seattle area. And I was like, there's got to be something that I can do. And one of the reasons that I really went into human resources was because I wanted to help people. I liked being able to be the balancer between the business needs and the people needs, and trying to advocate for my people. And so I wanted something where I could still help people but I also was very uncomfortable in my body. So I found Beachbody. I had done a lot of the workouts already. I was a Chalene Johnson girl. I loved turbo kick. So I started working out with the videos that I already had. And then I found out one of my friends started posting that she was a coach and all these things. And I was like, wait, you mean I can do this as a job? Like, this is amazing. I can work out and get paid for it. And so I reached out to her. So I was like the perfect, the perfect contact. I had already lost a significant amount of weight. I think I'd already lost like 50 pounds before I even started as a coach, like immediately hit the ground running. It gets really complicated really fast. You know, you are trying to work on yourself and work on this journey, but then you have this whole business side that I'm like, okay, I felt guilty because we were on a pretty fixed budget and I wanted to buy all the things and do all the things. So I obviously have to make money doing it to be able to support that. So then it's this weird balance of like my journey, fitness, business, kids, all these things, and it just starts getting really messy really fast. And I did not know at the time that I have some neurodivergency. I have OCD. I don't do anything halfway. So I did Beachbody, started teaching aerobics. So I would teach maybe 3 hours a day sometimes. So I'd be working out, but I was told that that didn't count as my own workout. And so I would be working out for like 4 hours a day, give or take. I killed myself in it. I had to get both knees replaced. I've done that within the last 2 years. I hit diamond, so I was rank advancing pretty quickly. Once you hit a certain level, they start to pull the curtain back a little bit, and you see, oh my gosh, wait. One of the videos on my channel I did of my upline, let's see, so she was my great grandma coach or something, but she was in top 10 and she lied all the time, falsified before and afters, like all these different things. So you start seeing this and you're like, wait a minute. So if I want to get there, I have to like sell my soul. And I couldn't do that. And so I thought not every MLM is this way. So I left Beachbody and I went to prove it and did keto, which the top coaches in Beachbody are the ones who got me into that because they said they were following the Beachbody plans. They were not. They were doing keto. I was in their groups. And so I'm like, if I'm already doing this, then maybe I should switch over to this. It's the same. It is the exact same no matter where you go. I loved the recognition because I like rank advance really quickly. And you do like I did get a pretty good chunk back automatically, right? Like because my people followed me. You know, they went with me. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm crushing this. I wasn't in fact crushing it. Had just taken my group, but building it. And so I stopped and I was like, I can't do this anymore. And then I started, I'm trying to remember even the first anti-MLM person that I saw. It was probably Roberta watching the Lula Rich documentary. And it was just these like revelations of, oh my gosh, like I think I was in a cult. And I think like
I'm sorry that I'm laughing, but kind of like Roberta. I'm in a cult.
I'm in a cult. I'm like, oh my gosh. Because I'm watching it and I was like, I did this. I did all of this. I lived this. And so I started really digging into anti-MLM content. And during that time, I was going through my own like health issues that were coming up. And I don't want to blame my health issues on just on Beachbody because I did it. Like I'm the one who worked out for 4 hours a day. It's hard to explain to someone undue influence and how much like you just are not thinking rationally. And so I really was trying to kind of dig myself out of that. And then I started doing anti-MLM content. And again, like I think for me, I want to help people as much as I can. And so I have gone back to school and I'm getting my degree, my master's in marriage and family therapy, because I would like to continue to help people. And so it's hard to decide, which part, but I do want to help people who are coming out of MLM because you feel like it's like you feel kind of stupid. You're like, I cannot believe I fell for that. I can't believe I did that. But it impacts you so much in your mental health and your emotional, and you probably have lost your whole support system because all your friends leave. They leave you. And then you're like, I just did this for years and now I have no one and nothing. And so helping with that mental health aspect of it too. So I'm going to be kind of shifting, I think, my content a bit. So yeah, so I'm lucky, I guess, in that I feel like everything that I have done, whether it's been human resources or the MLM or now school, has kind of led me to be able to be in this kind of unique position within the community to help people in different ways.
Since you're like, going in the mental health field, you can tell me your opinion about it. Whenever you're feeling that the shame and the guilt and all that kind of stuff, I mean, it's good to take accountability for the part that you took, but not for the other part that you were not aware of, like all the
Yeah.
lying, all the cheating, all the things that you have to do to be at the top. Because I can almost guarantee that if they had told you all of that in the beginning, you would have said, no, thanks.
I didn't even know there was an income disclosure. They don't tell you any of this stuff.
Exactly. And I think it's so important to share that because a lot of people in my DMs, and I'm pretty sure in your DMs, they feel guilty like for the whole thing. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I mean, you can take accountability for your part. You were not guilty of the whole thing.
No, and I think the vast majority of people and people that I talk to and people that I've known in MLM, they have good intentions and they didn't go in, I didn't go in trying to be like, how can I deceive all of my friends and family and get them into a pyramid scheme?
Exactly.
That is one of the important things I think with that video that I did in the car when I'm crying is because I felt so much guilt and shame. And like, I am so sorry to the people that did this. And I very publicly took accountability. But how you know that you still tried to operate with integrity is when people come back and be like, no, like you didn't do these things. Like you didn't intentionally do any of this. And you did what you could with as much integrity with the knowledge that you had, because they limit your knowledge so much until you get so deeply within it that you almost can't get out. I watch some of these top leaders and some of them I have zero compassion or empathy for, none, because you can tell like they know and they're doing it intentionally now. But
Yeah.
you see some of these leaders that cannot get out because they convince you to get your husband to quit his job. All of your eggs are in this basket. And now what are you going to do? And your husband, that was, I can think of someone, her husband was a Google executive and he's been home now for like the last 8 or 9 years. What is he going to do to go back to work? He can't.
No.
So he's not going to be able to get back in. Right. So you're stuck and they get you stuck. And that's what I want to help with is like, okay, how can you back out of this before you get to that point?
Can you imagine all the hard work and education and so much he had to do to be able to get a position in Google?
Yeah. Yeah. But it's important for them to retire their husband because it gives them credibility for their business. And so
True.
most of them do that and then they're just in trouble.
So freaking
And
sad.
it is, and it's hard. And that's one of the things that I've struggled with too, is that, for me, it's a combination, right? I was staying at home with my kids, but I have a 13-year break in my resume. So I am both overqualified because I have 15 years of experience, certifications, education. So I'm overqualified, but I don't have anything recent. So I'm underqualified. And so I'm holding this crap. Now, what am I supposed to do? Feel very blessed. We're in a position that I can go back to school and that I can reinvent myself and do something that I'm passionate about. But not everybody's in that position. And that's where it gets so difficult, especially, from an HR perspective that we kind of want to talk about is how do you talk about that time? And for a lot of women, I think it is that they were home with their kids and they did this during that time frame. And so they do kind of have that, they have a dual, I guess, reason for being at home and to say, like, this is why I have this break in my history. But like we were talking about before, all of the recruiting, all of the sales happen over social media. There is a trail. I was tagged in so many things. Like anytime I was in the top 10 of a team or, whatever, I'm tagged in all of those things. So all an employer has to do, and they do this now, is search you. And all of those things are going to come up. And so you can't be like, I'm just going to forget this time ever happened because it's there. It's there. And there's like, you're going to have to speak to it to some degree because we're in a different age and employers Google you. They look at your digital footprint now. And so you have to be careful with that.
That's one of the reasons why I wanted to have this interview with you, since you have some experience, being in human resources for so many years. You can share a little bit of experience on, hey, what would be the best way to start preparing that resume for the people that are, trying to leave their MLM and getting back to the workforce. And at the same time, try to be as honest as they can, because the fact that you're honest whenever I'm talking like based on my experience whenever I go and look for a job anywhere, whatever. In the past, I like to be honest because I think it talks about the kind of person that you are. But
Yeah.
if they see that you're maybe a little bit shady or a little bit, lying here and there, they're probably like, I don't think like she's our fit. So what would be like your best like recommendations, advice, and tips to start creating the resume after leaving the MLM world?
Yeah. So I think one of the important things to remind yourself is that you are not a business owner. You were a 1099 contractor. You can put that. You can put that you were a 1099 contracted salesperson because that is what you were. You can include that without saying, for me, like I was in Beachbody and Prove It and I was a CEO of my own business, the things that they tell you you were none of those things. But putting on there that you were a 1099 contract employee shows that you did do things, right? You learned things. You probably attended some sales trainings. You probably attended a different, if you attended events or whatever, but you were trained in how to market on social media. You were trained on how to build your, perfect client. You were trained on how to match the needs of a client with a product. You were trained to do some of those things. You can include those things. It's funny because as I was getting the article ready for your website, I was talking to various friends and it was pretty split. Some people were like, don't even mention it. And some people were like, yeah, you have to mention it. And so you're going to get different opinions just like you are on anything else. But for me, you can train skills, but you can't train integrity and ethics. To me, if someone is willing to put themselves out there and say, if the question that they're asking you is, can you tell me a time when you failed at a project? And it could be like, you know what? Yeah, I absolutely can. And that there were a lot of things that went into play. And you can talk about some of those things. It also depends. That's my least favorite response, right? It depends. But it also depends on what level you were within the organization, because you have different responsibilities, I guess. I can definitely speak to Beachbody stuff. Someone who's a 15-star diamond has a different business and a different structure than someone who never rank advanced at all. Their resumes and their interviews would look very different because they used and gained different skills. If you never rank advanced, if you never had a downline, if you never had any of those things, I would keep it so basic, right? Just like, look, I tried to sell a product on social media. It didn't work. I found out instead that I would much rather be involved with an organization and have that organization's marketing and power and information behind me rather than trying to do something on my own. If you're interviewing for a company, right? Like, I like that camaraderie of being in an office. I like, having those things. If you were a 15-star diamond, you had to do a lot of different things, and you probably were involved with corporate, and you probably were involved with different things. And so your resume is going to look different. I would say that, to me, it's owning it. And like you said, owning it to a degree, because you went in with good faith. You were trying to sell a product. No matter what they try to tell you, you're not sales, you're changing lives, or whatever they're saying today, but you were a salesperson. And so there's no problem in saying that and the reasons it didn't work out, and that's okay. To me, shows a high level of accountability. It shows growth. It shows integrity, morals, like all of those things. That, to me, as a recruiter, is more important than you being able to type a certain number of words per minute, because I can train you to do that. I can help you get that skill, but you can't train the personality. Yeah.
And integrity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying that you have to go in and be like, I tried to manipulate people online to purchase Amway. You don't have to do that. You don't do that. But
I was in a pyramid scheme.
Yeah. I was in a cult, and I tried to get everyone else in the cult. All my friends and family.
The human resources person is gonna be like, what the hell with this cult?
Yeah, they're gonna be like, okay, you're crazy, and no thank you. But so I mean, you definitely have to word it correctly, but own it, and it's okay. And I think that has been the hardest part for me. Once I got out, was getting to the point that I could be like, okay, yeah, I probably did think, but I did run my business, and my downline. I ran it with as much integrity as I could with the knowledge that I had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. And to remember that and go in with confidence about that.
The other advice that I don't think it was included in the article, but maybe it would be a good thing to talk about is, what do you suggest when it comes to interviews? What are your best recommendations for interviews, and if that subject comes up?
Okay, so my biggest tip has changed over the last little while, because I actually helped a friend interview for a position that she did not feel qualified for. She was like, I don't know about this. You can use ChatGPT, you can use AI to create an interview guide for you for any position. So interviewing is a skill. 100%, it's a skill. You have to practice. And so you can have AI generate an interview guide for the specific job that you're going for, because each job, the interview is going to look different. And so if you are going for, a retail sales position in a mall, that is going to look different than a call center. And so have AI create an interview guide and create multiple interview guides for you and practice it. And when you get in there, be yourself. They see what you've done online. They see who you really are. So don't try and put this face on that you're like, this is not me. You can't hold that for very long. And they will find out who you are. So just be yourself at the beginning. They ask you about your MLM time or they ask you about those things, be like, yeah, I was shown an opportunity from a friend. I thought that it was a good opportunity for me to be able to stay at home with my kids, but still be able to provide income to my family. But what I found was that with the requirement of the products that I had to purchase versus how much I made, they didn't that didn't align, and it actually ended up taking more money for my family. So I decided to pursue other opportunities.
You know what? I'm sorry that I had to. You're using the same thing from the MLM, but you're not using it for the
100%,
job
right?
interview. That's why I was like,
100%.
what? What?
Yeah. You learned how to do this. Like keep doing it. You're doing and it's true, right? It's like, well,
Yeah, it is true.
and it's a way to take accountability of like, look, I signed up with an MLM. It didn't work out because I was spending more than I was making. That doesn't make sense. And I was able to reason that through. And now I'm looking to get back into the workforce and or to get an opportunity. And maybe it's that you needed a position with benefits. You wanted something that would give you a better, here's the other thing, work-life balance. I mean, they tell you that you can work in like the, what
Pockets
is it
of
called,
your time.
yeah, the cracks, the mom
Oh
cracks, or
yeah.
whatever, the cracks of your day. What they really mean is that you are working all the time and you're not making any money. And so you wanted a better work-life balance. That's something you can say too, that because when they say you can work in the cracks of their time, what they're really meaning is that you have to work all the time, vacation, whatever, you're going to be working, and that doesn't go well for anybody.
It reminded me of something that I say pretty often to like the people that DM me that they feel like guilty and stuff like that. Like there's there's nothing wrong with wanting to have a better life for your family. There's nothing wrong with, trying to make like an additional income, you know, work from home, etc., etc. There's nothing wrong with that.
One of the things for me that I think I kind of mentioned this, I never saw an income disclosure, so I didn't even know what that was. And I think I got so involved in the emotion of it that some of my critical thinking skills were just like gone. I'm very much a numbers person. So calculating in like, okay, if I'm working this much and this number of hours, and then this is how much I made this month, how much am I making per hour? And if you truly go in and you have to subtract your expenses because the Shakeology that you have to buy each month, or the ketones, or the makeup, or whatever it is, because all of them have things you have to buy because that is how they survive, is the money that the reps are spending. Let's be real. So take that amount out and then see how much you're making per hour. And is that really worth it? Because you're probably making $2 to $3 an hour. And for what? And that's probably lucky. You're probably lucky if you're making that amount of money. I was lucky, I guess, because I had such a transformation. I think I lost, I don't know, 90 pounds or something. Like, so
Wow.
I had a really good transformation to self, which is so funny because I kept, the whole time I'm like, Beachbody did this. No, girl, I did that. I did that. Beachbody didn't do that. I'm the one that did that. But they get you credit it to the company. And it's like, what? They didn't get up at 4 a.m. and work out. Like, what are you talking about? I did that. If you truly like look at everything, is it worth it? Is it the amount of stress that it's putting on your family? You've got to take those into account. And those to me are the opportunity costs. What are the opportunity costs that you have from being in an MLM? And you have to add those in and look at those. And they're things that I did not think of at the time that now I'm like, oh, what relationship was I teaching my kids with food when I was measuring everything in these tiny, Lego containers and saying, oh, wait, I can't have that. Or if I want this treat, then I can't have a sweet potato. Mind boggling. And now that I have removed myself from that, and now that my kids are older, I can have those discussions with them, and it impacted them. It impacted them greatly. Like not only my time and my time away from them, and when we were at the pool, I'd be on my phone and doing those things, but I also impacted their relationship with food and their bodies. And that's a problem. So that has to be taken into account too. I've seen some of them say, like, you are teaching your girls to be strong girl boss, boss babes or whatever. I didn't. I taught my kids that they were not the most important thing to me. I taught my kids that they needed to restrict themselves to create this, perfect body or whatever that you're never going to achieve. And they would see those things. And that was more impactful than showing them that I was a girl boss, because they were like, no, you're not. Your kids don't care about that, but they do care that when they look up at their soccer game and you're not paying attention, they care about that. And that impacts them more than seeing you bring home $1 an hour from an MLM.
I can tell you that because it is important for kids, and I can say that.
Yeah.
For me, whenever my mom attend my presentation, my dance presentations, whatever, it was important for me.
I had the impression, and what I was kind of led to believe was taking my kids, like, you have, time freedom to take your kids and you can work your job at the beach. I don't want to work a job at the beach. I want to play with my kids at the beach. And so what they show as time freedom is actually not. And your kids see that. They see that you're not there. And so those are the things that you have to take into account with opportunity costs. It's not just how much you're getting in your check on Thursdays. Beachbody gets paid on Thursdays. How much you're getting in that check. It's okay. So I also had to spend this amount of money. I also spent this number of hours away from my family. I also, when I go on a vacation, I can't go on vacation. I have to post about what a great time I'm having on vacation when I'm working. All of those things, those are all costs that add up that are not the same if you have the horrible 9 to 5, right? I know that if I get a job at McDonald's, I have a set wage and I don't have to pay McDonald's to work for them. I will be able to tell you how much money I'm going to make. I never knew how much money I was going to make in an MLM. And I never knew, like, okay, maybe somebody sent their Shakeology back. And so that's going to be a deduction from my next check. All of those things. Like I said, I'm very much a numbers person and I like to be able to plan. You can't plan anything. You have no idea. And you're seeing this with the downturn that so many of the MLMs are having. As people are leaving, they're saying, my check was cut in a third. I've never had a 9 to 5 job say, guess what? We're only going to pay you 30% of what you were making now. Same effort. Or you may even have to work harder because you got to build back up. So it's this constant churn. 9 to 5s don't do that. That doesn't happen. But these leaders, their checks are being so greatly impacted because they don't have control of it. Their downline has control of it. And if they lose their downline, it's gone. They have nothing. And we've seen this happening with so many of the companies right now. I mean, I think Beachbody, I haven't looked at their stock. I had someone message me. They're like, holy crap. They're like in the 13-cent range because Carl did a split. So you have to take the dollar amount that they have. And I think it was like six something. You have to divide it by 50 because he did a stock split to try and make it look not so bad.
Yeah. I remember that.
But yeah, their stock is right around 13 cents right now. And
Wow.
it's crazy. And you see, like, and they convinced their reps that this was going to be such a good thing. And a lot of them bought stock. So they're getting screwed over in that too. Oh, yeah.
In my DMs, whenever people reach out to me and they share me their story and stuff like that, which I really, really appreciate that they feel even comfortable enough, to come to my DMs and share their story. I'm talking about the moms. More than the regret of the financial, what they regret, all of them. I swear I have not had one person that they regret having a more financial loss. What they regret the most is the time that they lost with their kids. That's what they regret the most. It's so
Yeah, I mean,
important to point out.
it is. I mean, so when I was my baby was, golly, he would have been like a year. And like, it's such fun times. But guess what? I was waking up at 4 to work out, to then get home, to get the kids off to school. And then I had to teach classes. And so like, I missed so much time with my last baby. And then as my kids were getting older, like I was never fully present. I was always listening to my phone because if you don't answer that DM right away, they're going to find someone else because there's so many people that do the product, that sell the product. And so I was never really present. And I think my kids, having talked to them, my kids are amazing. And they're like, we understand you were trying to help, you were trying to do blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it kind of sucked. Like it sucked. that for like a couple years, let alone the food I tried to make them eat. They're not happy about that part. But
Yeah.
because you're trying so hard to make this business work, and you have to be a product of the product. And so my poor kids were like, Dad, sneak us in some Doritos. We can't do this anymore. Mom's trying to get us to eat cauliflower again.
Your kids are so smart and so mature and so funny.
Oh man. Everyone tells us, they're like, you guys need your own reality show because it gets
Yeah.
crazy around here. And I think that's the important thing is, yeah, you may have missed time with them and you're not going to get that time back. Enjoy today and enjoy the time with them now, because and now I'm in the time where my 21-year-old lives a state away and I don't get to see her, and I don't,
Mm.
and I don't get to do some of those things. So look at your kids, and you're doing a pretty damn fantastic job. And as a mom, I think it's so hard. You're always like beating yourself up over all of these things that you're like, oh my gosh, this back to school time kills me. Cause I'm like, you threw a party for your kids to go back to school. I threw a party when they left and was like, woohoo, I made it. And so there's so much of this like mom shame. Guess what? You're doing a really good job and your kids are going to be good, right? Actually, I don't know what they're doing. I can hear something. I have to remind myself, he's got this. He's got this. But there's like a weird beeping going on. Anyway, it's not a fire alarm, so I'm okay. Your kids are good, and they need you. They need you. That's it.
Yeah.
And I think also preparing them for some of these things has been helpful for my kids to see that, like, wait, mom had tried to do anything she could to help our family, whether that was being in
Exactly.
a crappy MLM and doing those things. They still know that at the root it was for them, and that matters. And that matters. And so I think giving yourself the grace. I am really good at giving other people grace, but giving it to yourself is really hard. It's one of the things that I would say, same thing that I see in my DMs. It's, you beat yourself up for all of these things. And it's like, by doing that, you're not enjoying whatever's happening today. So it's okay. Like, I can't think of one thing that I have done that I can't be like, do you know what? That was a learning experience and move on.
Hmm.
And so that is definitely a mind shift. And it's one of the things that I want to help people with. What is the use of beating yourself up for decisions that you made? Make a new one today, right now. You can do it right now, and that's okay. You're teaching your kids, but also teach your kids not to get into an MLM, right?
Exactly.
I am not even gonna lie. My let's see, my daughter, my oldest, has been tried. People have tried to recruit her into Monet, whatever. Oh, there was another one, maybe an Arbonne or something. My 19-year-old was like, this sweet lady at the mall asked if I wanted to meet for lunch. Her husband's opening up a company, blah blah blah, and I was like, that's Amway.
Hmm.
That's 100%.
Hmm.
And so my kids now are seeing some of these things and they're like, oh, wait. So spread that knowledge to your kids, because these poor high school students are getting out and it's tough. The economy right now is rough, right? So they're seeing these things. And they're like, oh my gosh, I can work from home. I can do all these things. No, that's not what it is. That's not what it is. So make sure that you're talking to people, talking to your kids about, don't be so shameful that you're like, we're just not going to talk about this again. Talk about it, because otherwise your kids are going to get into the same mess that you did. And that to me is one of the most important things, because so far both of my adult children have been contacted to try and get them into an MLM. Yeah.
But you know what? The newer generation, I think the MLMs are struggling with them to convince them. And I think that's just so awesome. Because more than anything, it's the information that it's out there, that is so
Yeah.
easily accessible, and they can
Oh
just
yeah.
Google, what is this bullshit? What is this bullshit?
Exactly. Well, and it's funny, that's where whenever I feel like stressed or something, I look at my kids and I'm like, they're not willing to deal with the same like bullshit that we did. And they're not willing to take those things. And because of the level of information out there now, they're not. And that's why we're seeing such a downturn in MLMs and so many of these predatory business models, because these kids are not about it. They're like, no, I'm not doing that. I look at my kids and I'm like, no, they know much better than I did, because we have taught them those things and there's more information out there. And so I think the MLMs are, I mean, we can see it. You can see how much they're declining, and it's wild. And it's not just one of them. It's like we're seeing so many,
Hmm.
but for each one that we see fall, a new one pops up. And so that's why I think it's important to keep this information out there, because it's like, oh, everyone left Beachbody and has gone over to this like Human Grace or whichever one, right?
Hmm.
it's going to continue to happen, but they're struggling a lot more. And so we have to, that's why I think it's so important to keep our voices out there.
One of the things that I think it's a positive thing that I have felt it like a month or two maybe in my
Mhm.
DM, like in the beginning of my content creation, which was, I don't know, like 3 years ago.
Mhm.
And I said, oh yeah, that MLM is also a pyramid scheme. And we're like,
Mhm.
no, you're just a hater. You don't know what you're talking about. Blah, blah, blah. You know, the same thing. And
Mhm.
recently I've noticed that MLM reps are now watching anti-MLM content, which I think it's great. And
Mhm.
then I had a conversation in my DMs with somebody that asked me about their MLM because they were in another one and they joined this new one, right? She said, what do you think about this new MLM? I'm like, just like the other ones. And I shared with her some videos that some content creators have already exposed about that. And she was like, oh my God, I feel so bad. I thought this one was different. So at least we can see, or I have seen that they're more open
Yeah.
to believing what you're saying now,
Mhm.
or at least giving it a look. This is good.
Yeah.
These are baby steps, but these are good baby steps, you know?
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons that it's so important to come from a place of compassion and understanding, to be like, look, we understand because we did it too. But when you know better, you do better, right? We go back to Maya Angelou's quote. And so that knowledge, and to me, like, I still want to help people. That's what drew me into MLM. That's what drew me into the careers that I've chosen. I can help people by putting information out in a kind manner, and like I said at the beginning, there are some reps that I have zero compassion or empathy for, because you see how horrible they truly are to their downlines, and that they know what they're doing, but the vast majority of people don't know.
Mhm.
And so I think showing up with that love and kindness is like the most important thing. And that's how you do get the information out. And that's how you do say, like, my DMs are open, and you feel like you're a safe place. And I think that's important. Yeah.
Even when you make a mistake, maybe if you made like any other weird mistake in the past, and you come to your family or your friends or somebody that you know, like the last thing that you want is to be like, I told you so.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because otherwise you're not going to go. And then it leaves you even
Mhm.
more vulnerable if you don't have someone who is willing to give you that grace.
Mhm.
Right. And so I think that to me is one of the most important things, is like, okay, I'm not going to judge you, because guess what? I did it too. Like, I'm with you. We
Yeah,
we make bad choices sometimes, but what do you do with it? And
exactly.
and to kind of take it back to the whole recruiting or interviewing thing, that speaks volumes to someone's level of maturity, and integrity, and all of those things. If you can do that, that's the type of employee that a reputable company would want. Yeah.
One last question. If you had to give an advice to your younger version of Aimee before MLMs, what would
Mhm.
that be?
You don't have to do all the things. You can't do all the things. And so rather than feeling like you have to, and feeling like a failure because you can't do it, give yourself grace and do the best that you can. And some days my best looks really different than other days, and that's okay. Some days my best is, you know what? I got my kids off to school, and then I took a hot bubble bath and I read a book. And that's what I needed that day. That wasn't me wasting time. That was me doing what I needed to that day. And allowing yourself that humanness is something that I still have to remind myself every day. Because, like I said, I'm very much you should be doing all the things all the time, and perfection. And that's something that I've had to really kind of overcome. And I think my kids have definitely, they humble me frequently. And so that has been helpful. Where, guess what? My kids don't need super mom, they need me. And
Yeah.
that's something that's beautiful. Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah.
That was really nice. That was really nice to end. And what advice would you give if somebody wants to join an MLM?
Oh my gosh. Research. Like, I know that you believe your friend. I know that you want to trust your friend, and your friend doesn't know that they're misleading you. So do your due diligence and look for both the good and the bad, because there is good and bad with every single company. Like, not just MLM, but with everyone. There's so much information available. You owe it to yourself and your family to do your due diligence. So that would be my biggest thing. Because I was like, oh, sweet. My high school friend that I haven't talked to in 20 years, of course she knows what she's doing. No, no, she doesn't. So research.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that friend has the best intentions, and she's probably also unaware of, everything
Mhm.
that is going on.
Yeah. Yep. So do your own due diligence and don't just label someone as a hater if they are not 100% in favor of what you're doing. Instead, be curious. Yeah. That
Yeah.
would be my biggest thing, I think, is be curious and be like, oh, how does this work? How does this compensation plan work? And YouTube has incredible content on both sides and compare them and be like, okay, wait, and look at the motivation behind it. I do not get anything if somebody doesn't join an MLM. That does not impact my life at all. But if you have someone who's trying to convince you, that impacts their life greatly. They may be more prone to try and highlight the good. So look at the motivation behind the content that you're looking at too. We don't make any money. We don't make money if people don't join an MLM. It's not like we have like a fee,
Yeah.
we're doing this because we care about people. And so look at the motivation behind the content that you're also looking at, would be the other thing. Why are they creating that content? And if it's to get you to join them, hmm, yeah, you have to question that.
Yeah.
But I can tell you
Yeah.
right now that the community that I always wanted within MLM, I have found outside of MLM. And it is a community that we aren't making anything from each other. We are just truly wanting to support people because when I quit making people money in my MLM, they were all gone. But here, where we're not, like, I have found more support and friendship here than I have anywhere else because we're not dependent on each other for anything. We're just doing this because we truly like each other and we support
Yeah.
each other and we're not making anything off of each other. And that's a beautiful thing.
And what are
Yeah.
your future plans, just to end the conversation, your future plans? Do you have like a video that you're planning to make, or are you more like focusing in school?
School has been a lot right now. And so school has definitely taken a lot of time. I've also been taking time to decide what I want to do and what content I want to make. And so I will be making a video to kind of shift my content to some extent to one more of humanness and compassion and empathy and
Mhm.
utilize some of the skills that I'm gaining in, marriage and family therapy to help people within the community. And then I'm going to be going back to work and doing therapy and I want to do community education and advocacy. And so those are kind of my plans moving forward. Yeah.
That sounds nice. Well, I want to
Yeah.
thank you, Amy, finally, for having this interview. Yeah, if you need anything, thank you so much for the article on my
Yeah.
website. I really appreciate it.
And like you were saying, my DMs are open as well. If people want to have a conversation, if they just need a listening ear and someone who can listen to them without judgment and just understand, my DMs are always open. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave all your information in the description so you guys
Yeah.
can follow her, Instagram, YouTube. I don't know if you're anywhere else.
Mainly Instagram is where I hang out.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Amy, for your time. Thank you for everything.